everybody. Welcome back. And, thinking about these identity webs, we figured we'd start with us, and kind of share some things. So, Miss Arevalo, what's something that you put in the circles, like in your personal identity?
Something I put in the circle, well, I'm a middle child.
Sounds right.
If you couldn't gather that. I also enjoy being creative, so I wrote creative. I enjoy doing things like that. I also wrote I'm a soccer player. And a basketball player, and I put those in two different.
You know what's crazy about that?
Here we go.
I know that about you now, but if I'm being honest, when I first met you, I would have never thought you were a basketball player.
How dare you?
No, it's not my fault. Come on. We're short people, right? We're small people here.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Some shorter than others.
Some shorter than others. You didn't play in middle school.
Yeah, well, I started in middle school, but yeah.
Right?
Not for real.
Right, not for real. So, I wasn't like, oh. I didn't look at you and be like, oh, Rebel is a basketball player.
Yeah, no. Yeah. And a lot of people actually thought that. My own family was like, we don't play basketball.
Right.
When have you ever picked up a basketball? And I used to play all the time at recess in elementary school at McKinney, go Hawks. And then someone was like, you should actually play. And I started playing at the Y. And my family was quite surprised. But even my friends were like, no, you don't play basketball. And part of it was because I was so short.
Yeah.
And there are photos of me and the ball is as big as my head. Or bigger,
Right.
Now,
you were really tiny.
My ego takes a lot of space.
That's true. That is true.
But, you're exactly right. It came to a surprise to a lot of people. And that was something hard for me to work against because I wanted to play competitively.
Yeah.
But sometimes teams wouldn't even let me show up to their tryouts or let me on the floor because they're like, no.
Right.
So I actually had to play across town and I developed my skills and I actually ended up being pretty good. And so it definitely was a surprise. Now when I would drive to the hoop and get swatted, that was not a surprise. But I could hit a three any day, all the time.
I believe that. But isn't that interesting? Something that is so important to you for your personal identity is not something that the societal identity, those boxes really, there's no place for that sometimes. And it's not something that somebody can easily see.
Yeah, my personal identity, me being a basketball player, is not included in the social identity. The way that others are perceiving me, the story that they're placing onto me did not include me playing basketball.
Right. But the story you told yourself
the story that I was a girl, we are going to get on that court, and here we go.
I'm amazing.
Yeah, break some ankles out there. And that was something I had to hold on to because so many people were like, no, there's no way. My own family, no, we're going to go do soccer, then you can go play basketball.
Yeah.
But that was such a crucial part of my own personal identity that I really held on to it. But it's just so interesting because that social identity piece, there are some pieces a lot of it you don't get to control.
Right.
The story that other people say about you, which is that social piece. And for some of us, we hide some of those things that we don't get to choose. For others of us, we wear it on our sleeves and we want everyone to know. And it's hard because whatever you do, you can't always control how people perceive you.
Right.
And that's that social identity piece.
Yeah.
But that personal identity, me being creative, me being a basketball player, me being a soccer player, those are things that I felt were well within my circle of control.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just, you have personal identity, which is the story that you share with others.
Right.
The story that you can control.
Absolutely.
You have social identity, which is the story that people place onto you based off of the way you look, how old you are.
Yeah. Where you live.
Yes. And when you get to connect with people who share those social identities, it's so validating.
It is.
It's a very powerful thing to be in a group of people who share this specific part of who you are. And maybe society or all these other people see it in a certain way. But you get to be in this room and be validated by other people who are experiencing that thing, right? And personal identity, it's different because again, you get to control that, and you have more control over how you share that, what you do with it. But social identity, there's a story that comes along with that that you don't always get to tell. Someone else is saying it. And I remember that playing basketball when people would be like, oh, she's no good. Oh, there's no way. And then I always felt like I had to work extra hard. Even when my basketball shorts didn't fit me, and I'd be like tying them over and over again because they were so big, the smallest size they had. And yet I was I was doing things that left people feeling like, oh my gosh, that was a surprise.
Right.
And so I always felt like I had to work harder because I had to make up for more ground.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the piece of social identity that is really hard to navigate. That's different than personal identity.
Yeah, because your personal identity you have a lot of control over, and like you said, you can amplify. If you want everybody to know that you play basketball, you can wear your jersey, you can wear your basketball shoes, and then at least people start to maybe think about it. But it's something that you have a lot more control over, what you amplify, what you make bigger about yourself, and what you make smaller about yourself. If there's certain things that you don't want people to know or really pick up on, personal identity is kind of the place that you go to kind of hide some stuff as well.
Yeah.
So we just have a lot more control over it, and they work interchangeably.
Yes, that's like you were saying about getting dressed with the basketball gear. I can wear clothes that show that I am a basketball player, but showing that I'm a basketball player doesn't get people to believe that I'm a decent basketball player.
Yes.
And so I can walk around with these super baggy shorts and my ankle socks that actually go to like my knees, and people can assume that I'm no good, even though I'm trying to show that I am. And it isn't that social identity piece where they're controlling that narrative, they're making that assumption about me. It's something I had to work against anytime I got onto the court. And so, I totally get that people would be surprised. But, feel free, Jarman, anytime. There's a basketball court right out there, one-on-one. I'd bring you some Kleenex because you're just going to be, I don't know if you can handle it.
All right. I will admit, you got me in basketball, but I got you in softball.
Okay.